let's take an early look at the Rose Bowl, which will feature number 1 Oregon versus number 6 Ohio State in a rematch of a game that was one of the best that we saw all throughout the regular season, but with different stakes in a different venue. I expect a different outcome, and I will tell you why. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching the number 1 college football show, please subscribe to the channel and ring the bell so you don't miss any of the segments that we upload here throughout this really awesome December where we're playing lots of football. We're playing a 12-team playoff. We had our first round just now, and the only team that I think that has what it takes to run the table out of the first round with a win is the Ohio State Buckeyes, which I don't think you're going to find shocking, as Ohio State beat Penn State. Penn State beat SMU to move on to play Boise State. Notre Dame beat Indiana. They'll move on to play Georgia. And Texas beat Clemson. They'll move on to play Arizona State. But I think everybody's going to be focused once again on this Rose Bowl, which is, one, a traditional matchup, right, which would have been a Pac-12 champ versus a Big Ten champ or the runners-up in those games. This is also just kind of cool in that we get in this game in Pasadena. We're going to get the Rose Bowl parade. We're going to see what we think are 2 teams that could play for the national championship at the start of the year. And frankly, a team that's got a Heisman finalist in Dylan Gabriel, but a team that might be more talented at Ohio State that doesn't really have anything like that. I was really doing some math on this, and I was taking a look. There's no Heisman finalist at Ohio State. There's no Doak Walker Award winner. There's no Thorpe Award winner. There's no Biletnikoff Award winner. There's no Bednarik Award winner. There's no Buckeyes Award winner. There's not even a Broyles Award finalist on this roster and coaching staff that was built to win the national championship. And when you take into account none of the seniors on this team have won a big game, save perhaps this first round playoff game against Tennessee, it's do or die for them. We're talking about Jack Sawyer, JT Tuimoloau, Emeka Ibuka, Cody Simon, lots of guys that have been playing Ohio State football for some time that don't have any hardware to show it. No gold pants for beating Michigan, no Big Ten championship, no national championship. This is the moment for them. They have to play like they have nothing left to lose. And you know what? So does the coaching staff have to coach that way. That's what we saw against Tennessee. We saw Chip Kelly decide to get out of his own way and say, I have a clear talent advantage at wide receiver, and I am going to abuse it. I am going to absolutely try to truck you by going over the top of you. I'm going to get the ball out to my best wideout, 19-year-old freshman phenom Jeremiah Smith. I'm going to let Will Howard throw deep over the middle to Emeka Ibuka. And when we can, I'm going to take advantage of these run game with Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins. I love the fake guard tackle counter pull where they had those guys pulling on one side, but you saw the run play will go onto the other to the weak side, giving you one-on-ones with some speedy and powerful backs in Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson. I thought the offensive line for Ohio State played really well, but the defensive line was really on its P's and Q's. Jim Knowles was calling one hell of a game. Once again, I need to point this out. Ohio State put up 42 points on Tennessee. That is a team that hadn't allowed more than 30 to be scored on them all year. They allowed just 10 points from that team. That's a team that had scored at least 14, even in the losses that they suffered against everybody else they played. They were outclassed, they were outgunned, they were outcoached. It is the best that we have seen Ohio State look all year, which is right the time when you need to be playing your best football. Because when you played this Oregon team, they are built not unlike you, right? I said Ohio State feels more talented. They do. But that's not to say that Oregon isn't one of the second, third, fourth best talented teams in the country. And frankly, they got the edge. They've beaten you so far this season, 32-31. And when it came down to you having to make a play to put your team in position to win, you couldn't do it. Will Howard has to have that taste in his mouth. So does Ryan Day. They all do. And now you compound that with the loss that they suffered to Michigan that knocked them out of the Big Ten championship game and forced them to play a first-round game. Now they're back in the spot where they can seek redemption against the Ducks. But Dan Lanning is one of the most aggressive coaches in the sport. He is a man who is going to have his team ready to go. They're going to be absolutely raring to get after the Buckeyes. And they're going to say that we have the home field advantage playing in the Rose Bowl on the West Coast where they're from and where, frankly, is their stomping ground. They're new members to the Big Ten. Ohio State is old money to the Big Ten. As a matter of fact, it's one of the 4 founding members of the Big Ten Conference. I believe it's University of Chicago, Illinois, Michigan, and Ohio State, right? And we're talking about over 100 years of doing this. And Oregon, who's never won a national championship, is looking to do that for the first time, and it would be with 2 wins over the Ohio State Buckeyes, which is the blue blood of blue bloods. The Ohio State Buckeyes have the most fans in the entire sport. That's not me. That is a study conducted by AL.com and Samford University Sports Analytics. They dwarf everybody else's fandom. They've got over 6 million people that claim to root for them. The next closest is Michigan at 4 million. Behind them is Penn State at 4 million. There's a clear advantage here. You're also talking about an Ohio State team that has never, ever lost 8 games in a season. It's got to go back a far way before you can get to a losing season. And even then, you're talking about a team that's won 10 games, basically, I think it's 19 out of the last 22 years. That's what they just do. But getting to this moment, getting the Rose Bowl, that used to be home base for them. And you know what? It can be again, right? You can get it back this year. And I pointed out all the ways in which this team has not succeeded to show you that they have to sell out to do this. This entire season is a bust if they don't win the national championship. When you spend $20 million on your roster and you tell people about it, you're not Oregon spending 23 and not telling people about it. We're all going to point to you and say you spent $20 million on your roster and you told us about it in July. We saw you go get Chip Kelly. We saw that you were able to retain Jim Knowles. We saw that you went to go get Carlos Loughlin from Oregon to coach your running backs when Tony Alford went to Michigan. We've seen how much you spent to get the roster that you had back and then add to it. We know you've got a damn pterodactyl in Caleb Downs. Between Caleb Downs and Jeremiah Smith, you've got 2 of the best players on the entire football field if you're Ohio State. But if you're Oregon, you've got a quarterback who has awareness that is rivaling Peter Parker as Spider-Man. Dillon Gabriel sees it, feels it, runs away from it, throws into it if he needs to, and he is accurate with the ball. The knock on him is simply that he is short and that he is old. Like, he won't be a first-round draft pick because of that. Okay, fine. But he was playing some of the best football that he's played the last 2 years this year. And there's a reason why Oregon is undefeated with a Big Ten championship. Now, that said, I think not playing at Autzen is going to give Ohio State a little bit more advantage and an edge here. Playing at Autzen is a desperate and awesome home field advantage for the Oregon Ducks. It is loud. It is raucous. They know how to play in that stadium. Going to Lucas Oil, though, when they played Penn State, they gave up 38, and it didn't always look like they were going to be able to put this away, even as they're going fast, and you got Penn State players puking on the sidelines because they can't keep up with the pace. I don't think you're going to see that with Ohio State. I think they're going to be very well conditioned for this. Mickey Marotti has done a great job, but you're also probably not going to see the same game plan that you saw when you were able to beat Ohio State. They had a vanilla defense. They didn't run any stunts. They didn't bring any pressures. They were easily read and picked apart by Dillon Gabriel. That's not going to happen this time. They've got a better part of a week to prepare to give Oregon an entirely different look and to show that they can get home and they can harass Dillon Gabriel. They can do that. You're talking about perhaps winning. Now, Tez Johnson's back. That dude changes things. Evan Stewart can take the top off the defense. We know this. Terrence Ferguson, for me, is the second best tight end in the entire country behind Tyler Warren. I know that there's some Harold Fannin fans out there. I think Harold Fannin is a damn wide receiver. But okay, cool. Let's make him the third best if you got to do that. That's okay. Jordan Birch, though, can cave in your offensive line. Mateo Uiagalelei, he can do that too. They've got guys over there, Dante Manning, that can absolutely make life difficult for you. And they will continue to do that. They have not been shy about going into the portal to get what they need. Trayshawn Holden being another guy on that wide receiver group that can make things happen for you. And you know that Denzel Burke remembers that you were cooking him. Evan Stewart was absolutely blowing by him. Tez Johnson was getting anything he wanted. When you also add that to what they have in Jordan James and Noah Whittington in the backfield, again, I expect this to be a very competitive game. I think that this is pick 'em. Like, this is as straight up as it's going to get because I know what you have when you're as talented as Ohio State. I also know that if you're Oregon, you don't know what it's like to lose, and you've been playing a bunch of close games, but that's the reason we think you're gettable. You have one-score games against Boise State. You have one-score game against Penn State. You've got a one-score game against Ohio State. All 3 of those teams made the playoff. All 3 of those teams have looked beatable, and they could beat you. I also think that the team that wins this game probably plays for the national championship. I realize that they'll get the winner of Texas and Arizona State, but I feel really good about these 2 Big Ten teams and their chances of getting the national championship. And the matchup for both of them against Georgia, I think is better than the one that Texas has. I think that they're better equipped at quarterback. They're better equipped at wide receiver. They're better equipped with their running backs. I understand that if you're Texas, you feel some kind of way about this, but I can trust Ohio State to win a national championship in the college football playoff era. I can't even trust Texas to get to the national title game yet, right? They still could do that. And if it's Ohio State, Texas, I will be there for it. If it's Oregon, Texas, I'll be there for it. Georgia is really going to be licking his chops, but we're going to get to see what they got against Gunnar Stockton against that Notre Dame defense that I think is pretty stout. When I look at coaches making a play, I know that Ryan Day needs this one more than he needs almost any other win. He got out-coached by Dan Lanning. He got out-thought by Dan Lanning. And for the first time all year, we saw Ryan Day get the better of someone else that we thought was good, like Tennessee. Tennessee came in with a loud orange, the construction worker jackets, the school crossing guard, because they didn't wear no hunting orange because they weren't up there to hunt. Smokey got sent back home to the Rocky Mountains to lick his wounds. I think now you're the Buckeyes. You want to give the Ducks the full dose, because, again, I expect to be half and half. It's going to be open air. The crowd advantage is not going to be as great as it was in the home field advantage for these first-round playoff games. I don't think we're going to see teams get smoked. This, again, could be a national championship game. I'm going to go ahead and pick Ohio State in the early look. We'll see what else happens if there's some injuries or some things that we want to do. But the only thing that I would be leery of is what happens if one of these quarterbacks has to go out for any length of time. I think it changes the game. I don't know that Julian Sayin or Devin Brown is the guy that you want back there. I'm not sure what you think of having Dante Moore come into the game if he's the guy, right? It might be Austin Novostad. I think that we're in a position where I hope that both these teams are healthy. I hope that both these teams can play to the measure of their potential. And I hope that by the end of this, we got a really good read on whether or not one of these two teams can win the national championship. I already think they can make it. I think this game is going to show us who has the goods. But for Chip Kelly, throw the ball to 4. For Will Stein, do what you do. And for Tosh Lupoi and Jim Knowles, don't lose the football game. Give the offense opportunities to work, give them possessions, and you'll probably come out with the win. It's going to be a race to 40 as both of these teams are averaging right at 36 points a game. 36 points per game, actually, for Ohio State, 35.9 for Oregon. Both are putting up about 450 yards of offense. Both can run the ball well. Both can throw the ball well. Again, it's going to be a fantastic game, and I can't wait to see it.